If you are still shooting with your camera screen monitor, I honestly have no idea how you do it. But what happens if you invested a mere $169 and got something actually decent? And today we're going to answer that question. This is the Andycine X5. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give you a full look at the Andycine X5 and see if it's worth your $169. For you to upgrade from your screen on the side of your camera to something pretty epic. Physical side. It's a 5.5-inch touchscreen monitor with 1200 nits of brightness. Now, if you've been on this channel long enough, you will know that when it comes to brightness, it's something that I take with a pinch of salt. 1200 nits over here is not 1200 nits over there, so we're going to check that out. It is a 4K monitor. Now, if that's confusing you because the pixels on this is only 1920 by 1080, what that basically means is you can send a 4K feed into this monitor, and what it will do is it'll actually dumb that footage down into HD to have it displayed. Unfortunately, with a lot of cameras, if you're recording in 4K, it sends 4K out on the HDMI, and then the monitor doesn't know what to do with the 4K feed. So this can dumb it down. There are some monitors that can't do it, but most of them can. But if you're wondering what that 4K jargon is, considering it's only an HD monitor, that explains it. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, HD, not good enough. At 5.5 inch, that's 400 ppi on the pixels per inch. The density on this is absolutely insane. Essentially, Apple, I think, says at 330 or 340, that is what they call retina. In other words, it's good enough for your eye based on the size that it is at that pixels per inch from where you're going to hold it from your face. So you're not going to see any pixels when it comes to this. Also, it is a solid aluminum body, aluminium body, whatever you want to call it. But this thing is built like an absolute tank, and you probably could drop it, but I'd probably recommend you don't. Now, the kit that I have comes with a nice little carry case, even branding on the zippers. Very, very cool that a company actually does something like that. Now, the kit is only $10 more, and you do get the battery as well as the case, which is really, really handy for a mere $10. So you don't have to go out and buy another NPF battery. Inside the carry case, you do get a sun hood, an HDMI to HDMI cable, an HDMI to micro HDMI cable, a swivel mount, a USB-A to USB-C cable, a USB-C to A adapter, and obviously that NPF battery, which is an NPF 550, and it is 2200 milliamps, and you can also charge it via USB-C, which is really, really nice. Now, the monitor itself has 3 mounting options via quarter screw on the bottom, on the right, and on the top. So you have endless mounting options based on your rig. On the top, you have 3 function buttons and a menu button. These buttons also double up as for down and exit navigation buttons if you don't want to use the touchscreen. On the right, you have a power button. The back has another 2 vents and a slot for your NPF battery with a red button to remove that battery. So you don't have to hunt for the button every single time. On the left, you have an HDMI in and an HDMI out. Why? Well, usually you would run your camera into the HDMI in and then you would loop that out to something like a wireless transmitter, Hollyland transmitter. Perhaps you're sending that feed off to a director's monitor, or you're doing a live stream and you're the guy on stage filming, and someone needs to get your feed. Also, you do have a DC in 12 volt if you need to run this on long periods of power. The bottom gives you a DC in 5 volt USB-C option for powering, plus a DC out. Now that DC out, what that allows you to do is if you have an NPF on here, you can run a dummy battery into your camera. So you can technically run everything off one NPF battery. Makes it a lot easier for guys that want to keep their rig a bit smaller and lighter. Then you have the headphone jack to listen to your audio. Talking about audio, have you heard of Warner Chappell production music? Let me explain. Soundstripe has just dropped the sickest handpick collection from Warner Chappell production music, adding almost 20,000 new tracks inside Soundstripe. If a whole lot of new tracks with high quality vocals inside different genres doesn't curb your enthusiasm, well then I don't know what's going to. This makes life as a creator, filmmaker, and a marketing agency so much easier because Soundstripe has literally tripled their library with even cooler stuff. Did I mention that Soundstripe also makes licensing of music for commercials, projects, and films so much easier? Of course they do. Also, pro subscribers get their first month free to the Warner Chappell production music tracks. If you want to find out more, you can head over to www.soundstripe.com/rich, and I will leave that link in the description below as well. Now, if you're looking for feature packed and settings, you want to check out this menu. Now, using the menu is pretty simple. They've got some cool little double tap and you can access the menu. Single tap, it goes away. You can lift your volume up and down on the right hand side, much like most monitors, and backlight can go up on the left hand side. Now I'm actually setting this all the way down because you can see how bright it is, and if I lift that brightness all the way up, that's what the brightness looks like. So we're going to take it all the way down for the purpose of the camera. If you swipe up from the bottom, you can access those shortcuts. And if you swipe down from the top, nothing will happen. But if you do swipe and hold from the right-hand side, you do access this pretty cool little feature that allows you to take a photo and save it to the actual monitor, and then you can reposition and kind of bring that as a ghost image essentially and reframe it again and shoot it. So pretty cool little feature that they have over here. It does work when you have a USB plugged in. So heading over, you can either tap the menu button on the top over here, and then you can hit the F3, which is exit, or you can navigate via these. So for the purpose of this, I'm not going to use this. It's going to be a little bit confusing for me. So we've got assist and we've got all waves. If we tap over there, and you can just tap them on. That is how simple that works. Waveform, you can also toggle the waveforms on. You can change it to YUV, Y, RGB off for the transparency, and you can adjust the position of it as well. Now most of this is applied to all of them. So vectors, you can turn it on, and that's your vectors, and you can adjust the position of the vectors too, turn it off. Histogram, same thing. You can dial in that histogram to exactly where you want to. We're going to turn that off, go back over to our waveforms that we've left on, and then focus assist, and you can tap the focus assist on, and then you can change that peaking level. This is really, really cool. You've got blue, green, and red. Turn that off. Embedded audio, so you can switch this on and you can move your audio. So if you do want to see your audio, which is actually picking up from the other camera that's connected to this, that's my voice, turn that off. Zebra patterns, you can turn the zebras on as well, and you can adjust that threshold to be exactly where you want the zebras to be. A check field, so you can turn on your check field. And then false color as well, so you can turn on false color, normal or ori on your false color. And then moving down into markers, and this is great because I think any modern day monitor has got so much going on, so it kind of suits everyone. So we're going to turn these grids on, and as you can see, switch it to white, it's more noticeable, 6x6, 7x7, and then you can also custom, and you can change it to exactly how you want, depending on your needs. We have safe frames, and your safe frame will give you that little border around there just so you know where you want to shoot. And you can also adjust those 96%, 85%, and dial that in. You can even do the standard 235:1 or 9x16, which is really important for a lot of people nowadays. Turn that off. Center marker, so you can add a center marker on. So there's the center marker if you do want to know where the center is. This is really useful if your camera doesn't have it built in. Ratio marker, and this is probably the coolest part of modern day monitors. So I'll go straight to what everyone's waiting for, which is the 9x16, and then you can adjust that masked area, and you can change that mask, you can change the color of those lines. But now you can obviously shoot, say, for vertical video. If shooting landscape and vertical is something that you want to do, there it is. Going down into image, you can do scan mode, you can underscan or overscan. You've got your aspect ratio, which is 16:9, 4:3, 5:4, or you can just leave it on auto and it'll do it for you. Anamorphic, so you can turn anamorphic on. So if your camera cannot squeeze via HDMI on the way out, you can do it over here. So it's 1.6 times, 2 times magnification and user. So if we go over to user, you can see you can dial it in exactly how you want, which is absolutely crazy. They've got pretty much every squeeze under the sun, and there's a glitch on. There we go. Image flip, so you can adjust the flip, and you can flip it vertically, horizontally, or horizontally and vertically as well. So I'm not going to do it now because then I'm going to get confused. You've got your zoom mode, and you can choose your zoom on, and then you can toggle it on and off, but you don't need to go this route. You've got 16 times, user times, you can go up to 2 times actually on the user times. I'm going to turn it off. We'll come back to image and we'll go to image freeze just now, because you can actually just pinch and zoom on these monitors too, which is really cool. So you can actually just pinch and shift over. So if you do want to check focus or whatever it may be for a specific reason, you can just rather pinch and do it. Double tap and we go back to image. and image freeze. You can freeze the image. So if I wave my hand in front there now and I freeze and I move my hand, it's now frozen and you tap off. So if that's something that you need to do. P2P, you can switch your P2P on as well or off. Then you have user options. So here you can upload your LUTs. It's got some LUTs already built in. So you would plug in that little memory stick and you can do it. And you can upload your own LUTs if you want. So you would say LUT import and confirm, and it will check. It's failing now because we don't have a memory card into there or a USB flash drive. And you've got HDR. Now this is pretty cool. It's one of the features that they brag about. You've got HLG 1, 2, and 3. So if we turn this on, you can see how much it brings out the color in the picture. Now you're going to really battle to see this on camera. It's very difficult to show this. There's HLG 1, HLG 2, HLG 3. So this is essentially like a hybrid long gamma, allowing you to see more details in the highlights and the shadows. Turn that off. You've got your display adjustment. Now this is your backlight that we were dragging up and down on the left hand side, as you can see. And then your brightness, your contrast, your saturation, your tint is something that's quite different. So pushing the brightness up, it's going to really kind of gray out the image, so it lifts everything completely. So let's see if we can get it back to 50, more or less. There we go. And you can adjust your contrast, your saturation, your tint, and then you can do color adjustment as well. So you can go auto on your display range limit or full. You can adjust the color temperature, so if it is slightly out or wrong, and then you can user adjust it using your red, green, and blue as well, and dial it into exactly how you want to shoot and how you normally shoot. So what I would suggest is shoot a clip on your camera, expose on your camera like you normally want to, and then what you can do afterwards is you can actually, even if you want to just check it on the computer, you can take it back to the computer and run that same file in here, and then just calibrate this monitor so that you know your editing monitor and this monitor looks the same. Then you do have shortcut keys over here, and let's just get back to, I think we were there, your shortcut key. So you can change F1, F2, and F3. So currently F1 is on all waves. So if we tap, let's just go back and we tap F1, you will get all the waves, and then that will turn it off. F2 is center marker. So you can go over here to your shortcut key. Let's change save frames, and you can choose any one of these to make it. So let's choose grids. There we go. Now when we tap F3, we're going to get the grids that we made. And if you want to toggle on specific grids, you will go to your markers, you will go to grids, and we'll say, let's say 3x3, which is probably the most popular. And now we have those grids to toggle on and off. Double tap, go back to the menu, hit into system. You got your user switch, so you can actually save, call it different profiles. So if you have them saved specifically as you want to, and you can switch for different projects. Maybe you film in studio, use these settings, or on location. You got your language, your on-screen display options, so you can set it for 45 seconds. This menu will disappear, or you can just switch that off. Then you have to switch it off. You can change the transparency of your menu settings over here. We can change the EDID settings. Let's just take that to off. EDID settings, 2 or 1.4. Volume, you can adjust the volume over here or here, sliding up and down that side. Cooling fan. Now the fan is on right now, but you can change it to on, off. And then obviously I would just leave it as it is on 3. The fan is busy running and the monitor stays pretty cool. You can reset and you can do a firmware update, but you do have to use that USB thumb drive for your firmware update. Then you can obviously swipe up from the bottom like I showed you, and you can do a quick toggle on here, which is really neat. So you don't have to always head up into the menu. So this is nice. You can bring this over here. Let's say we always want to, this is kind of what we're looking for. So you can swipe up, toggle it on and off, and you know where it is all the time. Nice and easy to have all those that were in the menu right over here at your fingertips. And then obviously, yes, you can still zoom in. Brightness. Now when it comes to brightness, this monitor is actually really bright. It's got a viewing angle of 160 degrees, and also stacked with that 1000:1 contrast ratio, it actually is a really, really decent monitor, especially when it's outdoors. You don't need a sun hood in daylight unless you really in some terrible sunlight with some dappled light behind you and you're getting some crazy reflections. Other than that, no, you don't need it. I suppose the point of a sun hood is also really dependent on the creator themselves. If you're super fussy, maybe a sun hood would be best, but for run and gun, I don't think you need one. Now I'm gonna put this up next to the Fieldworld P6 XL, and there's a reason that I'm doing that. Let me explain. When it comes to brightness, I recently did a test with the Viltrox 2000 nit monitor, a very popular monitor that a lot of people loved. However, when I put the FieldWell P6 XL, which only boasts 1200 nits, it was equally as bright, if not brighter, than the Viltrox 2000 nit, the DCX2, if I'm not mistaken. And that left me with a taste in my mouth that goes, are these specs something that you and I can measure, or is this just kind of marketing jargon and we need to look in the real world? So because the FieldWell P6 XL is brighter than the Viltrox 2000 nit monitor that we tested, I'm going to run this against the FieldWell P6 XL because that's a 6-inch monitor, very similar build, strangely enough. Side by side, it's pretty clear that the Andycine can punch right where it should be punching, and it honestly is equally as bright as the FieldWell P6 XL. There's a lot of similarities, I think, in these two monitors, oddly enough, but the fact that it's a 1200 nit brightness monitor, don't let that deter you from what 1000 nit actually looks like. These monitors are seriously brighter than what the marketing jargon tells you. Or the others are just not as bright as they are telling you. Don't know which way it goes, but take that and do with that information as you will. Also, I think the 5.5 inch, 6 inch kind of style, 5 inch is a little bit too small for me. What? Anyway, I think the 5.5 and 6 inch style is kind of where most filmmakers are currently, especially if you're rigging this up on a gimbal. I personally love a larger monitor. Obviously on a gimbal, it's definitely better to go with a smaller one because every 100 grams that you can save here and there definitely adds up. So when I've tested this against the FieldWell monitors that I do have, I'm getting the same results in terms of battery life. Whether I'm using the included battery, the 750s or a 970 battery, and I'm comparing them side by side, the runtime is always very, very similar. So is it worth $169? To be honest, I'd rather spend $179 and tell you that yes, it's worth $179 for $10 for a bag and a battery is a no-brainer. So at $179, it is definitely worth it. With the mounting options that you do get on this, its compact size, build quality, the HDMI in as well as the out, the fact that you can power your camera on the DC out, you got the headphone jack, you can even use the USB-C to power it. It is pretty crazy what is jam-packed into only $179. Also, the color and everything that it produces, and Andycine's name has been around for quite some time. I see a lot of filmmakers using Andycine, even on larger productions, and it's always made me wonder how good these monitors actually are. To be honest, I think we're at a point with filmmakers right now where when it comes to gear, you can't really buy bad gear at a specific price point. What I'm saying is, if you find a car and it costs X amount, all those cars that cost the same price, their competition, are going to offer similar features, similar quality, and similar reliability. There may be one or two that aren't exactly the same, but what it boils down to is brand loyalty. So with that said, I will leave a link in the description where you can head over and check out more about the Andycine X5 or pick one up. Thanks for watching, wherever you are in the world. Have a good day, good evening, and good night. Goodbye.